Deer, and I'm chairing the subcommittee this morning to hear Ealing Cricket Club's application for variation to their club certificate. And with me on this panel are Councillor John Ball and Councillor Rima Baklini. So that is the panel of three. And we're assisted by our legal advisor, Mrs. Hatun Zeb, and our committee clerk, Sam O'Brien. So that's the lineup on our side. Can I ask now others attending today and those who are going to speak to please introduce themselves, beginning with Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Yes, sir. My name is Greg Fitzpatrick, and I'm representing Ealing Cricket Club as a trustee on the new board.
Thank you. And the Metropolitan Police Officer.
Good morning, Chair. It's Sergeant Dimitri Kassar here, part of the Licensing, Partnership and Prevention and Antisocial Behaviour strand of the West Area Ealing side of policing business. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the Council's Noise and Nuisance Officer. Mimi Stupu is cited in the papers as the Council Noise and Nuisance Officer.
Mr. Crook, you're on mute.
Sorry?
Matthias Crook is on mute.
Yes.
He's on mute.
Yes, sorry, I'm back. So my name is Mateusz Kruk, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Noise and Nuisance team.
All right. Thank you very much. And I think finally, one of the objectors, Mrs. Gartside.
Hi, yes, I'm Gilly Gartside. I live in a house which is 2 houses away from the cricket club ground.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As I say, that the application this morning is from Ealing Cricket Club for variation to their club certificate. That is the application we're going to hear. And briefly, let me explain the procedure that we will be following this morning. I think we will start the hearing by listening to the application by the cricket club, and Mr. Fitzpatrick will present his application. He will also, if he has any witnesses to produce, and then the other side, that is the objectors who have made representation, they will ask questions. And councillors, members of the panel will also ask questions if they have any. And then the roles would be reversed in that the objectors and the police officer and the noise and nuisance officer will give their evidence, and they will answer questions from the other side and the panel of councillors. When we have finished that, the panel will retire to deliberate and to consider the evidence from all sides. And then we will reconvene probably at 1 p.m., depending on how we handle the time. So we'll reconvene to announce our decision. If you're not able to reach the verdict today, we will let you know, and you will hear from us within 5 working days with our decision. So that is the procedure that we're going to follow today. Very well. So, Mr. Fitzpatrick, if you can make a start, please, with your application.
Yes, sir. As I said, my name is Greg Fitzpatrick. I've been a member of Ealing Cricket Club since 1970, and I was elected an honorary vice president in 2013. In December 2023, I was invited to join the new board of trustees of Ealing Cricket and Social Club Limited, which is a registered charity. Ealing Cricket Club has been resident in Corfton Road for over 150 years. This application is being made as a result of many requests received from the cricket club members and their guests who would like to socialise primarily on Fridays and Saturday evenings later than they can at present. The club has a small function room facility which is used for all manner of events ranging from business meetings to birthday parties, engagement and wedding celebrations, funeral wakes, and sports presentations. The function room is also used as a polling station for elections, including the forthcoming general election. As a members club, only our members and their guests are permitted into the club. The extension to the serving hours we are applying for does not seek to encourage more general trade from the public across the local Ealing area, as without membership, this is not permitted. When approached to host functions, the club is frequently asked for an extension of serving hours beyond 11 p.m, most commonly until midnight. Due to the restriction on the number of tens available each year, the trustees believe this application will greatly assist in generating more revenue and profit, which in turn will benefit the registered charity and thus provide ongoing and better cricket facilities for both the club's members and the wider Ealing community. Being a members-only facility, the new Board of Trustees believe that the club rules, regulations and policies already comprehensively cover the requirements of the 4 licensing objectives. Apart from the trustees, there is a professional management team in situ to oversee the day-to-day operation of the club. Members are aware that any transgression, however small, may result in disciplinary action, suspension or even removal of membership. The trustees are not aware of crime or disorder within the current membership, nor does it believe that public safety will be in any way compromised as a result of this application. The trustees and management are committed to ensure that all members remain aware of their responsibility to treat the local residents and the wider community with respect at all times. This includes keeping potential noise to a minimum and always leaving the premises quietly and responsibly. Any reported incident of public nuisance will not be tolerated by the club, and immediate action will be taken by the trustees and management against any responsible individuals. We have a fully trained staff who have all been DBS checked, and we operate a Challenge 21 policy in the bar. We have a dedicated trustee who is responsible for implementing our safeguarding policy. The trustees hope that this application will be granted and would like to stress that it is not intended that the club will always open until midnight on a Monday to Thursday, or indeed 2 a.m. on a Friday and Saturday. It is envisaged that during the summer months, the club will be able to remain open until midnight on Saturdays to allow the playing members, many of whom do not return from away fixtures until after 9 p.m, the chance to socialise with their fellow players for a little longer if they wish to. Granting this application will allow the trustees to approve at their discretion, alongside the club management, any extension of hours as appropriate for selected private functions and other events without the requirement of making costly applications for temporary event notices, which take up club management time, and this will also reduce licensing department administration. The trustees do not foresee any regular requirement for the use of the 2 a.m. facility, but would like to have it in place if needed for any major function, national celebration or event that they are requested to host. In consideration and respect of our neighbours, the trustees propose to close all external areas of the club from 11 p.m, and ensure that all members and guests remain inside the premises until they leave as quickly and quietly as possible when the club closes. The club would be happy to accept this as a condition to the extension of the licensable hours, should the panel be minded to grant the application. On behalf of the new Board of Trustees, I would like to assure our local residents that we are and will remain totally committed to ensuring that our members behave with respect at all times, and we would invite our neighbours to please raise any concerns with us at any time. Having carefully read and considered the objections from residents, it does seem that many of them are written on the basis of the worst case scenario of what could happen, and not the reality of what actually does happen. The pavilion and function room are situated on the corner of Corfton Road, Woodville Road and Woodville Gardens. And whilst it is a residential area, it is not densely populated or heavily built up. In a direct line, there are no more than approximately 15 properties within 50 to 60 yards of the pavilion. Any residents living at the far eastern or southern boundary of the cricket club grounds, around where the car park is located, over 200 metres away from the pavilion. This means that the number of residents directly affected by any general noise and conversation of people presently outside the pavilion in an evening is far more limited than the number of objections that the application has received. And I believe this is disproportionate and based on a misapprehension of why the application for the extension to the hours is being made. We appreciate the time that the committee have given us today, and we look forward to a positive decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Have you got any witnesses to produce?
No, sir. I'm here on my own, sir.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the questions. So can I ask the objectors' side, beginning with the police, the noise nuisance officer, and then Mr. Gilgart's side, to ask their questions to Ms. Fitzpatrick. And then I think our council panel may have some questions. Officer.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Hope you're well. Sir, just from our side of things, yeah, you have addressed quite a few issues. My concern is, I've been to your cricket club, and there are quite a lot of houses that surround the circumference of it. In terms of, whilst I understand from an economic perspective you want to raise funds, etc., the outside area, you know, outside the cricket, the main pavilion.
Yes, I do.
If people spill out onto that, how are you going to manage the noise? Because that, in effect, sound does transcend, especially in an open kind of arena like that.
Yes, I understand. I understand your concern, and obviously particularly during the summer months when there is a lot of cricket being played at the Corfton Road ground. We run 6 senior sides here, and so there are, during the daytime, there are always lots of people watching cricket. But this is not affecting this application. This is sporting spectator type stuff. What we have acknowledged is that we have local residents, albeit, as I said, only probably 15 to 20 houses within direct contact of the pavilion. And we believe that we have the management in situ, the trustees in situ, and the discipline and the rules and policies of the club, which will allow us to at a certain time, and we've said 11 p.m. To bring people into the club, back into the pavilion, and say that is it. The outside area of the club is now out of bounds.
Okay. What's the capacity of the pub area, the area where the drinks and that's the closed area? What's your capacity?
I would suggest that we would be crowded if there were more than 80 to 90 people.
Okay, fine.
Could I just say we do have a separate function room facility, which again would hold probably 40 people, 50 people maybe.
Okay, and if say you didn't have a function or event, would you open that to spill, for the overspill to go in, or is that just kept for functions and events solely?
It's predominantly kept for functions and events. You will find that there are occasionally it's more sort of tables and chairs, and if you like a more a lounge area for people if there is the need. There's very rarely the need. There's never. We very rarely get to a capacity within the main pavilion.
Okay. In terms of staff for your late night drinks and your entertainment, how many staff do you have behind the bar?
Normally, we have a club manager. Our current club manager has been with us for over 6 years.
Yeah.
And she would be supplemented by probably 3, maybe 4 more staff.
Okay. In terms of a dispersal a policy, what would you have for, say now 2 o'clock comes and people need to get to their houses or their locale? What type of dispersal policy would you have in place for the late night till 2 in the morning?
Yes, well, as I've already said, we think that the use of a 2 o'clock application or license would be very, very rare, and it's not something that we would want to be using on a regular basis, save for special functions, really special functions, national celebrations, etc.
Okay.
But the situation would be that the bar would close, licensing hours, the bar would close, and all of our members and their guests would already have been alerted to the fact that they need to disperse quietly. I don't know how many people would be where they would be walking to, but our policy is that the club manager and staff would encourage drinking up as quickly as possible and leaving as quietly as possible.
Okay.
And then we, as a club, the club staff would then go outside after closing time to make sure that people have dispersed properly.
Okay. Now you know where the external area is. It leads out onto the green. When you do have functions and say like weddings or whatever the case may be, sometimes people will spill out and go onto the green area, etc. It's not something you can always legislate for, and I do understand that. How would you police that from an internal perspective?
Well, again, we have during a normal day, we also have a business manager who looks after our function events as well as the club manager, and the club manager and staff on site at the time are here to control in any and every way exactly what goes on with regard to our ordinary members and also our functions. But we do have an outside area. I would suggest that our wedding and birthday party type events, especially during the summer, tend to start earlier. And we would always explain to people who are wanting to run a function, an engagement or a wedding celebration, birthday party, whatever it may be. We would encourage them. We would be alerting them to the fact that they can that at a certain time, all their guests must be contained within the building.
Okay. And with regards to the functions held like weddings, etc., would that be for members only, or would that be open to other members of public?
It's members only. Members, friends, members, guests are generally the people who book these functions. And we've been running as a function facility for many years, and we have a very good reputation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Chair, I don't have anything further that I need to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Officer. And we go to the Noise and Nuisance Officer, Mr. Crook.
Thank you very much. Actually, most of my questions have been already asked by Mr. Cesar. However, here maybe I'd like to just focus on the venues where you basically, well, on the applications, I didn't see that you applied for any regulated entertainments, for example, like recorded music or live music. Is it something that you're also going to have on your venues, on your events? Sorry.
The use of live music is very rare. And for instance, we used to run a very good fundraising activity, which was a summer ball, which was contained within a marquee on the ground. But because of the excess noise, which we understood because there was live music going on in a marquee, and because of our wish not to upset the local residents and neighbours, we decided to abandon that. It was a costly thing for us as a charity because it lost us revenue, but we decided that that wasn't a good idea in this local area. So we do not run the summer ball anymore. There are occasions when there is some live music within the pavilion, but it is very rare that we would ask for that we would have any live music outside of the interior of the pavilion. And as I say, we summer ball, for instance, we would always alert our local residents to the fact that the summer ball was taking place. But that's been abandoned now. We don't do that anymore because it's not sociable for the local area.
I understand. Thank you very much. That's actually all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Officer. Mrs. Gartside.
Thank you. The first thing I'd like to say is you say you think there are only 15 to 20 houses in direct contact. When I saw your notice, I went round and put leaflets through the doors of 150 properties, which I thought were in close contact. Also, I live in a flat in a house which is at the eastern boundary. So although there's only one property there, there are 10 inhabitants. So I think it's actually going to impact on many more people than you're suggesting, Mr. Fitzpatrick. In terms of the eastern boundary not being affected, on the admittedly fairly rare occasions last summer when you had recorded music, live music, events, the noise was really excessive. And as I said in my original submission, the only way that we could bear it was because we knew that it was going to finish around midnight. So to have it going on until 2 a.m., I don't understand how that's even being considered in a residential area. People would not be able to sleep until it was finished. The noise of the DJ or whoever you had presenting was so loud we could hear every word they were saying. You say that that is held inside the pavilion. We could literally hear every word that person was saying. We could also hear the music. It was extremely loud. You say the eastern boundary is going to be less affected. That's simply not true, I'm afraid. If you'd like to come and be in my flat one evening when that's going on, you will see that that's true.
But of course, you're on the southern boundary, Mrs. Gartside, aren't you? The eastern boundary is surely the far side of the ground, is what we're talking.
Parkview Road, is that what you're talking about? Parkview
Yes.
Road. Yeah,
Yes.
our garden is on Parkview Road, effectively.
Right. Oh, I
Our
see.
bedroom overlooks our garden, so
I see.
we are on your eastern boundary, in fact.
Oh, I see. Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Well, you weren't to know where I am in Woodville.
No, quite. No.
But we are but Parkview
Look,
Road, so we're the eastern boundary.
I don't know to which events you're referring to. What I can tell you is that, as I said in my early on in my piece, I was invited to become a trustee of the new board of trustees in December 2023. Maybe I'll just add that I'm now retired. And I worked in the licensed and leisure trade from 1976 until I retired in 2021. So I'm well aware of the issues that noise can produce. And one of my responsibilities is to deal with bar and house as far as Ealing Cricket Club is concerned. And my job is to ensure, and I have been around here for 50 years, as I said, well, more than 50 years as a member of the club, and I have never had any other desire than to make absolutely sure that we deal with all our local residents and neighbours in the very proper way. What I can assure you is that in terms of noise, we do not believe that we've had any issues in terms of excess noise. We haven't been alerted by the noise and pollution team, as far as I know, about excess noise. So if nothing has been metered is what I'm trying to say to you, and I'd be more than willing to speak to you at any time and to go through your concerns so that we can make absolutely sure that that any concerns that may have occurred in the past are definitely not repeated.
Thank you. What I would say to that is I think part of the reason that you won't have been alerted in the past is because there's a great deal of goodwill towards the cricket club in our area. That's very clear from most of the residents' objections. Most people start by saying there's a lot of goodwill towards the club.
Yes.
So as I said, people like us thought, okay, we have to put up with the noise until a certain point. The issue is it going on until 2 a.m. That's the big issue, really. And also midnight during the week. Sorry, I think it's my turn to speak.
Sorry,
Moment.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Apologise.
So you talk about people always being respectful when they leave the club. And that we're talking about worst case scenarios of things that don't at the moment happen. I've given you an instance of actually the noise being very loud. There is certainly one objector has talked about people peeing in their garden. I think if you go on until 2 a.m, you're going to get more of that. If people take on a huge amount of beer, then I'm sorry, but I do think that's going to happen. There's a littering issue, which actually I'm going to talk about in my presentation, so I won't talk about it now. You say that people must keep noise to a minimum, otherwise there will be sanctions. If the sanctions are about what happens to them within the club, that still doesn't solve our problems living outside the club. Would there be any sanctions which could ensure that they don't behave in an antisocial way outside the club?
We can only deal with sanctions for people, for a potential club member doing something outside the club. If we find out about it, we therefore would look to you as local neighbours or local residents to alert us to that fact. At that point, we can take action. And as I said in my piece, we would look upon these very seriously, and we could impose a ban on membership, a total ban, a temporary ban, or whatever. The new board of trustees is a new board of trustees since December 2023. We have a new chairman. We are trying to instigate new policies to ensure that all our members not only respect each other, but also respect the local neighbourhood that they're in and the local residents that live in it. And could I just say, you've mentioned the 2 a.m. licence a few times during this conversation, and I've said it is absolutely not our intention to be using the 2 a.m. licence, save for a very special celebration or national event. There's no reason for us to want to use that 2 a.m. license other than for that purpose. And if it would help you, we would be more than happy to maybe through you to be alerting you if and when that special event might occur. So that we could talk to you about it and make sure that we work together. That's what we want to do.
I think, as I'm going to say in my submission, this is a residential area. I can't see why you need a 2 a.m. licence ever. And once that's been granted by the council, much as you're very kindly representing to us that it would be rare, there's nothing to stop you from using it more often. So is it not possible that you should apply for a special license on those, as you say, very rare occasions? If it's that rare, doing the paperwork, once a year or whatever, rather than having a blanket agreement that you can stay open till 2 a.m. on a Friday and Saturday, would be much better for us as the residents.
I'd be more than happy to do that. I'd be more than happy for the committee to maybe add a condition on the 2 a.m. if that's possible. I don't know, but as far as we're concerned, we wanted to have it in place for the very, very rare occasion that may occur. And I keep talking about national celebrations and things. We're not going to be running the summer ball on the outside of the ground anymore. We haven't run one now for probably 5 or 6 years, I think, and we're not intending to bring that back. So we are really, the new board of trustees is very definitely wanting to work with the local residents to make sure that we're all happy, living in harmony, And we very much appreciate that you have us in your hearts as well.
One final question. You say these functions are only for members of the club and their guests and friends of guests. There's no way, is there, that you can actually scrutinise those people, therefore? So you've said you're not aware of any issues with any of your members in terms of crime, etc., but you're not going to be able to scrutinise all their guests and friends of guests, are you? To check that those are also not people who are likely to come out and behave badly outside the club, or even not do what you've asked them to do, which is go inside at 11 o'clock.
When a function booking is taken, the person who's booking the function becomes the responsible person, and as far as we're concerned, they become responsible for the people that they are inviting as their guests to the function. I can only say to you that in my experience, I don't believe that we have ever had a problem with any of the function booking guests and friends. I'm touching wood here, but I'm saying to you that we are not a club that encourages public disorder in any way, or any disorder in any way. And I've been proud to be a member here since 1970.
Thank you. I have no more questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Mrs. Buckley? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Fitzberg, one of the residents mentions having littering in forms of bottles and glasses in her garden. Could you please provide us with an insight of how do you serve alcohol in your club? In which form?
We don't. We serve draft beer. There are no cans of any beer sold on the premises, save for non-alcoholic beer like Guinness Zero. There are no miniature bottles of spirits or wines ever sold over the bar. And all our bottles and cans of Coca-Cola and things like that, are all disposed of via recycling bins at the rear of the pavilion. So that's how we dispose. We also, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. So we dispose of things. We dispose of bottles and cans, which. Generally, a can of Coca-Cola is dispensed into a glass. So we then dispose of the can. There are waste bins and all around the ground for anybody to throw their litter away. The issue that I think we have is that we don't think that the bottles and cans necessarily come from this club. There's a Tesco supermarket at the bottom of Haven Lane, which is probably 150, 200 yards away. And people do use Haven Lane. There are 2 pubs in Haven Lane, and and people do use Haven Lane as an exit route from Ealing Broadway. So it's to be saying that the litter and bottles and cans all come from Ealing Cricket Club, I think is a misconception.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzberg. I have no more questions, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ball?
Sorry. Yes. Thank you, Chair. There was a question from Sergeant Cassar earlier on about who could book events, and you said that members and their friends and guests can book functions. So would a member be held responsible under your disciplinary policy if problems occurred on a booking by their friend, or is the booker who you don't really have a sanction over, would they be held responsible in that situation?
I think I think it's fair to say, as I said earlier, we while I was touching wood, we don't experience issues within the club. We're generally it's a very well run place and a very friendly place. If there was a disturbance of any sort with the friend or the guest of a member, then that member would be the responsible person, and we would then take necessary action to ensure that punishment fits the crime, so to speak.
Thank you. So I note that the recorded music section, it's not completed with timings because it says that it's already covered by the existing club certificate. But I mean, the club certificate is only till 11, isn't it? So effectively you are applying for an increase in recorded music till 2 a.m. effectively.
Yeah, well, technically yes, but we're not a club that's we're not a nightclub. We're not looking to be playing music. We're not trying to turn the cricket club into something that hasn't always been the cricket club. We want to extend our hours to give our members the opportunity to socialise later than they can at the moment. We're not looking to necessarily start to have functions and discos and live music or anything like that. Live music and discos are extremely rare year on year at Ealing Cricket Club.
Well, and on that, I mean, would you be willing to accept a condition that limited the number of openings beyond midnight over the course of a year?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think that would be that would seem to be helpful, because I think that the concern of residents seems to be that there would be like a regular 2 a.m. parties happening.
I totally accept that, and it was never our intention to be using the facility of a 2 a.m. license. I've already said it, so it would be boring for me to say that, save for a national event or a very special occasion. But yes, we would.
And what sort of number would you be willing to accept of events beyond midnight over the course of a year?
I can't foresee more than possibly. If I say 2, it sounds like there's going to be 2. I don't know the answer to that question, but I wouldn't think it would exceed 2 requests to 2 a.m. licenses per annum. I can't foresee it.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. The other thing that was raised was about noise. Would you be willing to have a requirement to have a noise limiter installed?
I can't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case. We do not believe that we've ever had a noise pollution officer measure any of the noise that may emanate from the pavilion here. And I can't think of any instance when that has happened. And we don't have representations from the noise and pollution department, as to the best of my knowledge and belief. If a noise limiter was what was required, I don't foresee that there would be an issue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of questions, but let me first seek a clarification on the answer you gave to Mrs. Gartside's question, which is that Mrs. Gartside said that if you don't visualize frequent use of the 2 a.m. license, why don't you apply for the occasional license when you need it? And you said something like that, you are happy to accept a condition. It wasn't entirely clear to me what you meant by that condition that you're prepared to accept and what that condition would be.
Okay, I think it may have just been covered in the previous in your colleague's previous question when he asked me how many 2 a.m. licenses we might envisage during the year. My personal view is, as the trustee responsible for Bar and House, that it would definitely not exceed 2 per annum. So if the restriction was placed on that it was up to 2 per annum, then I believe the club would be very happy. We just felt at the time of the application that it was something that we would like to have available to us, and that's the reason that we asked for it. I just do not believe that we will be using it except on an extremely rare occasion. And so, yes, I mean, if that's the sort of restriction that you're talking about, then absolutely fine.
So you'll be happy to accept the condition of limiting 2 a.m. license on 2 occasions per year?
I think so, yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's very helpful, and also helpful. I mean, I've been at your club on a number of occasions, and it's always been a happy experience. But it's a very pleasant place to be, to drink and socialize. But I've never stayed too late at your club. So that's in terms of local knowledge as a local councillor, my own experience of the club, and I thought I needed to share that with others too. However, when I read the evidence submitted by 27 residents of the area, I did wonder that is there something that people like me who attend the club, a couple of times a year, perhaps miss the sort of thing that the residents experience. For example, one of the residents who said that I live across the road, and Mrs. Gotts, I refer to that resident's testimony. He said that people, when they left the club, they were peeing into our garden. That's one. Secondly, another one says that there's shouting and running around the road after the club closes, and then that disturbs us in our sleep, and that there's some evidence that residents have experience of antisocial behavior. Another one says that there have been instances where police have been called, and he said that if police had to be involved during the regime where the club closes at 11 or 11:30, then he said that it's not beyond imagination that there will be such instances if the license was extended to 2 a.m. So these are testimonies of residents who are otherwise very well disposed towards the club. They have been very gracious in saying that we value the sporting opportunities the club provides to young, and so they are quite complimentary to what you offer to the community. However, they have these reservations, and they're actually talking about their own experiences. So how would you really assure us that you will be able to mitigate all these problems?
First of all, sir, I've not been until I saw the representations from the local residents. I wasn't aware, and certainly I don't believe the club have been made aware up until the time of these representations that somebody sadly peeing in the front garden of a local resident was happening. I don't know whether it indeed was a member of the club. I mean, and I suspect that the representative, the objector, maybe doesn't know whether that was a member of the club. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm saying, how do we know? In terms of antisocial behaviour and calling the police, we are not aware. The club, the trustees, the staff members here are not aware of any police call-outs, save for one call-out in February, I think, 2022, where there was apparently a neighbour complained about noise, and the police arrived and were satisfied with what they found, and there was no need for any further action. Apart from that episode in February 2022, I'm not aware of any police involvement as far as the cricket club is concerned for many years. But what I can say, and I'm sort of driving this one home a bit, you said you were very happy to come to the club. I've been very happy to come to the club for the last 54 years. I'm very proud of what we represent here at Ealing Cricket Club, and I do not in any way wish to downgrade our reputation in any way, shape or form. We have a new band of trustees, a board who are very responsible people, very professional people. We have a very professional staff here at the club, and all I can say to you is that we will endeavour to do everything we possibly can, and I mean everything we possibly can, to ensure that antisocial behaviour just doesn't exist as far as we are concerned. We have a concern about people leaving Ealing Broadway, the same as the local residents, I expect, do. But we want to work in peace and harmony with our local neighbours and our local residents. So we can just do as much as we possibly can, and we have the professionalism and the enthusiasm to make sure that that message is directly fed back to our members.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's your application, and you've answered all questions. So let's now move to the other side. That is objectors who have made representations, and I will follow this order. Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, Chair, I've raised my hand, and Miss Gartside too.
I'm sorry. Sorry, who? Mrs. Gartside, you want to speak? Yeah, sorry, I didn't notice. Yeah.
Thank you. There was just, it's very reassuring, I think, for the local residents, what you suggested, sir, that there would perhaps be a limit of 2 occasions per year when the licence would be extended to 2 a.m. That doesn't address the extension to midnight on weekdays. Would it be possible to put in place a similar limitation on how many times on weekdays throughout the year the licence would actually go up to midnight rather than 11? People have to sleep, have to go to work the next day. Children have to go to school the next day. I think midnight on weekdays is also too late in our view.
Ms. Fitzpatrick, you want to respond?
Yes, I'm happy to respond. We asked for the midnight extension Monday to Thursday purely on the basis of functions that may occur during the week as opposed to at the weekend, and on the basis that we're very often asked for an extension of hours for functions throughout the week. We, as a club, we would not intend to use the facility till midnight on a Monday to Thursday. Just generally speaking, the business would not require us to be open until midnight on a Monday to Thursday. So the application that was made was on the basis that if we are asked to run a function, a private function, birthday party, or whatever it might be, on between a Monday and a Thursday, which again is probably not as much as it is on a Friday and a Saturday, then we would have that facility for a midnight extension. But it is not our intention to open the bar on an ordinary night till midnight on a Monday to Thursday. In fact, whilst we work within our licensable hours now, the bar tends not to open until 11 p.m. anyway. It's
So
something.
then I don't see why you need to apply for the extension.
Well, it's simply, Mrs. Gartside, it's simply on the basis that if the request comes in for a function, then we can actually turn around and say, yes, we'll be able to run that function until midnight without going for a temporary event notice.
All right. Well, thank you very much, all of you. So let's move to the other side now.
Councillor, I've got one last question.
Right. Okay. Go on.
Yes, Mr. Fitzberg, if you just could confirm to us how many temporary event notices did you apply for in the past year, just to give us an insight?
I don't think we applied for many at all. I think we always apply for a temporary event notice for our firework night, which of course is a major event, as Mrs. Gartside will maybe tell us later.
Yeah.
It's where we average about 5,000 to 7,000 people at a major firework event. We have done for the last 45 years, and it's one of the biggest events in the borough. Other than that, I'm afraid I don't have to hand how many temporary event notices we have applied for in the last 12 months. I've only been on board since December 2023 as a new trustee. I'm aware that we have certainly applied for one only this year, as far as to the best of my knowledge and belief, since January the 1st this year.
Just asked just to make sure that I know we're putting you've agreed to this condition of only 2 events.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure that during the past year you haven't applied to more than 2, just to be suitable for your requirements as well.
No, I think the limit of 2 was for the 2 a.m. license. So I mean, we certainly haven't applied for a temporary event notice till 2 a.m. In the last 12 months. Absolutely no way.
Thank you so much. No further questions, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Ball, your hands up. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, sorry, just one more. So arising out of the discussion that arose from Mrs. Gartside's question about the opening during the week, would the club be willing to accept a condition on the numbers of evenings during the year that you're open beyond 11 p.m. during the week?
You're talking about Monday, it's Sunday to Thursday. Well, no, Monday.
Yes, that's right.
Monday to Thursday.
Monday to Thursday. That's right. Yes. Yes.
I'm thinking about this. I don't think there are too many occasions Monday to Thursday when we have events that would require to go to midnight. We just wanted to have that facility. So I suspect that the answer to your question is yes, we would accept that facility. Sorry, that requirement, a restriction. Sorry, I've forgotten the word now.
Condition.
Yes. Sorry, thank you. So yes, I mean we're very adaptable here. We just want to do the right thing, and so if there was a condition that was laid down, more than happy to take that on board as well. I don't know how many, but I mean I can't see it. I can't see it being. Again, I would if it was 2 a month, I would think that would be extreme.
2 a month.
Well, I mean it's. I'm sort of sticking my finger in the air here, Chair, because I just don't know the answer. It may be that after this hearing that we have a phone call from somebody who says I need to run a function on a Wednesday. Can we go till midnight? I just don't know. It's so as I say, I'm dipping my finger into uncharted waters. But I would suggest it's not. It is very rare.
Sorry, Constable. Go on.
Well, just wanting to kind of nail that down. So would you be willing to accept a condition of two events beyond 11 p.m. Monday to Thursday per month?
Yes,
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
very much. Yeah.
So just so that everybody is clear that you are willing to accept a condition of 2 events per year for the 2 a.m. extension and 2 events per month of the midnight extension.
Monday to Thursday.
Monday to Thursday, so.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's very helpful, actually, in assuring members of the neighborhood. Okay. So that's your case. So let's move now to the objector's side. So the objector's turn now, and let's begin with the police officer's case. So, officer, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, to the board and Mr. Fitzpatrick. Mr. Fitzpatrick, thank you for answering all the questions so eloquently and offering a multitude of reassurances. From a policing perspective, whilst the hours will fall out of the core hours, we only have concerns regarding the licensing objective, which goes towards preventing a public nuisance. From my own personal policing experience, when people are intoxicated or have had a lot of alcohol and they go beyond a certain hours, so that let's say that till 2 in the morning, I am of the opinion that it does affect your will affect your local residents, because whilst you can't necessarily legislate for an individual's behavior, and you may put all the processes in place which you have so articulately put forward to us, that will impact on the quality of life of the local residents. And having walked around your cricket club, it is quite densely populated around the circumference from that, and noise does travel. And whilst you've given the reassurance you will look to punishing members, I don't know if that's the correct term of phrase, but looking at some form of sanction towards members of the club, you can't necessarily legislate for the friends of those members who attend at a function, etc. And you might not necessarily know, and again, it is an unknown quantity, but you might not necessarily know the group or of people that are attending the function, and that could lead to people behaving in a antisocial manner, which then spills out into the green area, and then when they leave, causing issues to the local residents. And that's why I think it is really important to have a dispersal a dispersal strategy when these events come towards a conclusion. All in all, you've answered a lot of the questions very eloquently, but my concern is mainly towards the public nuisance, preventing a public nuisance of the licensing objective. And that is just where my concern is. And that's all I have to say, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Crook?
Chair, I have a question to ask the police officer, please.
Fine, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Sergeant, how many times have all the police have been called on Corfton Road? We don't really have any.
Okay, Councillor, so to answer your question, there have been numerous calls to that locale, roughly in the last 6 months, about 15. However, the caveat to that is none have emanated from the cricket club itself.
Because I know that there's a hostel, isn't it?
Yes, there is one there, and obviously, you know, the other issues with the public safety type essence of the licensing objective, and whilst it might not necessarily fall in the realms of the cricket club, if people leave and they go, say, down towards the green,
Mhm.
You know, there could be crime and disorder that could lead where people, from a public safety perspective, and again, from my own personal policing experience, when people are intoxicated, sometimes that leads to them being an aggressor, and I'm not saying anything, or them being a victim of crime. So that's just the concern from that side of things. But in answering your question, and I do apologize for going on, nothing has emanated from the cricket club itself.
Okay, so the 15
Okay.
times that you've attended,
Yes, they
they
have
are
been.
not from the club, and
Yes,
maybe
they've
from the
either been
hostel.
domestic related incidents, or they've been incidents that have emanated from the hostel, as you've so stated, or antisocial behaviour that we can't pinpoint directly to the cricket club.
Well, in
And if
that
I
case,
did,
it's not really relevant to the application. As you yourself say, that none of those incidents
yeah,
relates
but
to.
I'm just answering the councillor's question, Chair, and that's all I'm asking. I'm just talking about if we extend the hours to 2 a.m., that could lead to it impacting, and that's why I said it will only, in my concern, it would only hit the preventing a public nuisance element of the 4 licensing objectives. So I haven't targeted the other 3. However, when you do have a public nuisance, if public nuisance did occur and antisocial behavior did occur, that can then lead to crime and disorder.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's just to answer your question, Chair.
Councillor Baklani. You finished?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sergeant. Yeah, no more questions.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Chair.
Any more questions from anybody? No. All right, well, Noise and Nuisance Officer, Mr. Crook.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, good afternoon, actually, I should say, everyone. So my name is Mateusz Kruk. I'm the Noise and Nuisance Officer for the Acton cluster, and our department has submitted the representations against the extension of hours due to previous historical complaints from residents. The complaints we have received concern loud amplified music and raised human voices. Additionally, in our opinion, the proposed hours are excessive, and given the close proximity, which is just less than 30 meters to residential properties, granting the variation could result in public nuisance. In conclusion, we proposed that the premises will continue to operate within the hours that they have on the current premises license. It is Monday, Saturday 11 till 11 p.m., then Sunday 12 till 10:30 p.m., and on Christmas Day I can see midday till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Good Friday 6:30 till 10 o'clock. Of course, Mr. Fitzpatrick mentioned that there might be some rare occasions where they will continue having the venues, the events past these hours. We are open for any 10 applications that we receive from the applicant, as well as what we have discussed previously, the conditions which were noise. So for the weekends, to have two occasions per year to operate till 2 o'clock, and then two events per month for the rest of the week. This is something that our department would accept.
Thank you. Mr. Fitzpatrick, any questions?
Only one, sir, please. The representation there mentions about about complaints due to noise. As far as the cricket club is aware, nobody from the noise and nuisance team has ever attended the club to tell us that there is an issue. And as I said, the only time that we have on record is Saturday, the 3rd of September 2022. But the representation from the noise and pollution team talks about taking into consideration the noise complaints received over the years. The question I would like to ask is why weren't these complaints passed on to Ealing Cricket Club? Because if they were passed on to us, then we could have taken some action, but we didn't know about them.
I think we have exactly the same data. So here I confirm that the most recent complaint we have received, and where we have spoken to the club manager, or like the event manager, was in the 3rd of September. However, it is important also to mention that not everyone is familiar with our department. We're trying to promote our service as much as possible, but sometimes just residents are not aware of such a service that the councils provides to the residents. That's why we might not be aware whether the residents are affected with the noise or not.
I understand that. It was just that in your representation, you did say taking into consideration the noise complaints received over the years. But like I said, I've never heard, or the cricket club have never been challenged. And even on the 3rd of September 2022, the people who arrived at the club to take up the complaint were satisfied that we were not transgressing.
Yes, again, something I confirmed that the most recent was the September. Our concerns are more about the probably very close distance to the residential area. That's why, like, if we like to let you go within your proposed hours on the applications, there's some measurements that should be involved, such as, for example, the installation of the sound limiter at least. For the best.
We can move on from that point. Mr. Fitzpatrick, I should have asked you and given you the opportunity to question the police officer. I'm sorry I omitted that. Do you want to ask any question to
be honest with you, Chair? I didn't raise any question about the 15 or so visits that the police have had to make in the area, because I was satisfied that they were nothing to do with the cricket club.
No.
So that's why I didn't ask any questions. Thank you.
Splendid. Right, Mrs. Gardside, over to you now. What is your case?
Thank you. I suppose the first thing I'd like to just reiterate is what I said, that just because people haven't complained doesn't mean that people haven't found it difficult in the past. That's to do with the goodwill in the area towards the cricket club. But what you're proposing is something new and different, which is going to have a different impact. I'd also just like to say that I think twice per month to extend up to midnight on Monday to Thursday nights is too much, in my opinion. So this is my submission. The cricket club is situated in an entirely residential area, not in a town centre where there are other venues with late licences for alcohol and public entertainment. The council's own licensing policy core hours makes it clear that the latest licences for premises nearby for the normal supply of alcohol are up until 11 p.m. Mondays to Thursdays and midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. Even in the category premises offering late night refreshment, the weekday closing time is midnight and the Friday and Saturday closing time is 1 a.m. So the cricket club's application to increase their current hours by 1 on Mondays to Thursdays to midnight and by 3 hours on Fridays and Saturdays up to 2 a.m. exceeds all those premises whose primary purpose is to serve alcohol, which are located in town centres, and seeks to serve alcohol and host public entertainment until considerably later, even though it is a club whose primary purpose is hosting players of cricket. To the specific grounds for objection, prevention of crime and disorder, when members and their guests leave the cricket ground at the end of an evening, they're drinking. At the moment, we residents already encounter broken bottles. I accept your submission, Mr. Fitzpatrick, that those are probably large bottles of wine, since that's all you serve, and other litter on the pavement the next day. I know you said that cannot definitely be the result of the cricket club, but actually if they happen the morning after a function, I think that's not coincidental. If people are drinking for longer and later at night, this will inevitably increase. The cricket club says in its submission that antisocial behaviour and criminality are not tolerated and perpetrators will be banned from the club and its grounds. If they're turned out of the club for these behaviours, is it likely they will just go peacefully home through the residential streets around the club? Secondly, public safety. The more alcohol people consume, as the police officer has said, the more likely that there will be aggressive and disorderly behaviour towards members of the public and distressing incidents of trespass onto nearby private property. I'd like to make one specific additional point. Ealing Council has allied itself publicly to the Preventing Male Violence initiative. They've said preventative work in the new action plan includes innovative use of licensing conditions to ensure that boosts to the nighttime economy with bars and clubs across the borough also prioritise the safety of women and girls. Seems to me if you extend these licensing hours, you're not staying true to that objective. My job personally sometimes requires me to walk home from the tube late at night. I've, as I'm sure we all have, witnessed shouting and physical fights around Ealing Broadway Tube. I don't want to have to walk down my own street on a night when the cricket club has had a late function, worrying that I'm going to encounter aggressive behaviour on the way. Prevention of public nuisance. The volume of the amplified music and speech and applause and shouting was sometimes very high indeed last summer, as I've already said. If the hours are extended as suggested, we and all the other local residents will suffer this public nuisance more deeply and for longer, interfering with our right to sleep. Mr. Fitzpatrick has said the club believes its members are decent and responsible people who would not cause any public nuisance. I'd just like to point out that one or two of your adult teams use quite abusive and unpleasant and loud behaviour and language towards their umpires in the course of matches. So I might dispute that particular characterisation. And protection of children from harm. I personally don't have children living here, but many other houses in the neighbourhood do, and they have the right to sleep. And indeed, when they're teenagers, to return home in the evening without being concerned about being prevented from getting home by rowdy and aggressive behaviour. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ganside. Ms. Fitzpatrick, your turn to ask questions.
Yes, I've made a few notes there, sir. In terms of the issue of bottles outside of the club, it's definitely not our policy to be serving whole bottles of wine over the bar, and certainly not for our members to be taking them out and then throwing them into the road immediately outside the club. I would suggest that Mrs. Gardside may be incorrect in terms of how she perceives the bottles in the road. They could easily just as easily have been bought in Tesco's, and I hope Mrs. Garside might agree with me on that. I don't know. Have you any evidence that these bottles of wine have come straight out of the cricket club, Mrs. Garside?
Only the coincidence of the timing that it occurs on mornings after there have been functions.
I suspect I'm supposed to be asking questions, but you mentioned about the abusive language and behaviour of some of our adult players towards umpires. I would just like you to know that we play our cricket within the Middlesex County Cricket League, who have a panel of umpires. And Middlesex County Cricket League run a disciplinary panel on a weekly basis for every single club in the Middlesex County Cricket League, and that encompasses 6 divisions. I think it's 6 divisions, and any disciplinary action needs to be taken while playing on-field sport is looked upon terribly, very, very seriously. And again, as a player at Ealing Cricket Club for over 35 years, I personally did not experience abusive behaviour towards umpires, so I'm not quite sure how you've come to that conclusion. But
I assure you, I'm not making it up.
no, I'm not for one second suggesting that you're making it up. What I'm suggesting is that there is a disciplinary procedure in place. I can honestly say that I am not aware of any disciplinary action that's been taken against Ealing for matches at Ealing Cricket Club for abusive language or behaviour towards an umpire.
Thank you. Any more questions?
And could I just say one more thing? That as Ealing Cricket Club, we are.
Is it a question? If it's not, then you can really put it in your final submission.
My question is to Mrs. Gardside: are you aware, Mrs. Gardside, that Ealing Cricket Club is totally inclusive, and we also have women's cricket playing here on a regular basis?
I didn't know that. No, I'm not sure how that pertains to my particular point about safety in the evenings, though.
Well, the point is that there are women on the premises as well as men on the premises.
What are the proportions?
Well, we run a women's cricket side, and we have a lot of women. We have women's Colts sides, women's junior sides. I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to use the word Colts. It's juniors, women's junior sides. We obviously have an awful lot of male junior sides, ranging from the age of about 6 to 18. And we're very proud of what we do here. So we are totally inclusive, and we look after the ladies just as much as we try and look after the men or the boys.
Right, but what proportion of the teams playing on your grounds are male compared to female, would you say? Don't include the children.
The senior sides, no doubt. We have more male teams. We have six male teams playing on a Saturday, and at the moment we're obviously growing our ladies section. So we have regular cricket for one team of ladies on a regular basis, but they're very much included in the activities of the club.
Great. And there was no accusation on my side that you were not inclusive.
Thank you. No, I haven't got any more questions, Chair.
Thank you. Very well. I think we've finished hearing evidence from both sides, and you've asked questions. Can we now move on to final submissions? And the first group to go, that is for final submissions, which is their opportunity to say anything else that you haven't put in your evidence. So I'll take this in the same order: the police officer first, the noise and nuisance officer second, and then Mrs. Gardside at the end. Sergeant Cassar.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, everyone. With regards to, Mr. Fitzpatrick has really put his case forward through thoroughly. The proposed hours from Monday to Thursday till midnight, and a Friday to Saturday up until 2 a.m. From a policing perspective, we feel that the hours are excessive. We have concerns about this, and that the fact that when people are intoxicated, this can then lead to a public nuisance, which in turn indirectly can lead to crime and disorder. Now, I'm not accusing the cricket club of that at all. As I've alluded to, nothing has emanated from the cricket club, but should an extension of hours be granted, I feel it could have a negative impact on the local residents around there. Having walked around the cricket club itself, whilst the green area, the cricket green, is a largish area, sound does travel. And when people are drunk, they can be leery and loud, and sometimes, other things can occur that are beyond the club's control. So that will have an impact on the local residents, because as there have also been a number of objections from local residents, and I just feel that should the extension of hours be granted fully, that it will have a negative impact on the local community around that area. And as Ms. Gartside has alluded to, a lot of the stuff currently has been on goodwill from the local residents. And yes, people have got to go to work, people have children, etc. So they have a right, as much as a cricket club has a right to extend its hours, the residents also have a right to live their life in a peaceful manner. And from that side of things, that's all I have to say, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Crook?
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, so our department also believe that the proposed hours are excessive, given the close proximity to the residential area. Well, basically, what I was trying to say earlier, we need to make sure that the noise pollution is fully controlled by the premises. Therefore, the proposed hours, in our belief, are just excessive, and we rather propose to stick within the hours that the premises has at this moment. With still being open for any temporary even applications received from the premises, as well as what we have discussed earlier in terms of the conditions. For example, having 2 conditions per month for operational to operate from 11 till midnight during the day, and then 2 occasions in the year for operating till 2 a.m. Yes, this is something that, in my opinion, sounds reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gartside?
I just want to ask a question, really. Is it acceptable that any resident should be stopped from getting a decent night's sleep on any occasion by what the cricket club is doing? How many residents is it okay to keep awake when actually they want to go to sleep? And the second thing is just my concern that I understand Mr. Fitzpatrick has said they're not trying to appeal to the public to get them in to take advantage of the late licensing. The fact is, people will get to know that the cricket club is sometimes a place where you can get a drink a great deal later than anywhere else in the area. That will take a certain amount of policing. I think it may create an appetite for the cricket club offering something special and unusual. And perhaps next year, the cricket club will come back and say, we would like to extend our hours further and more often. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. So, well, that brings to an end the case on both sides and your final submissions.
Chair, if I may just intervene there, Mr. Fitzpatrick is able to also close on behalf of the applicant before you close submissions.
Ms. Fitzpatrick, you have the opportunity now to make your final submissions.
Thank you very much. I think I've gone into quite some detail about how we believe we behave here at Ealing Cricket Club. I've said on numerous occasions today that we have no wish to upset our local neighbours, our local residents. We have the ability to, as a club, the Board of Trustees and our professional staff have the ability to work within the 4 licensing objectives. We have no issue, we have no intention of bringing any grief to the local area. We want to continue, as we have done for 150 years, to work with our neighbours and to respect our neighbours. One thing that I can say, following Mrs. Gartside's last remarks about whether we would return asking for extended hours because we are going to have a wonderful idea about how we can encourage the public to attend the cricket club. I'm happy to go on record and say that will not happen. We have no intention of trying to extend our membership beyond where it is at the moment. We want to give our members, the current members, the facility of socialising on a later basis. Certainly, as I said, on a Saturday. And really, we just want to live in harmony with our neighbours. We don't want to cause annoyance, and we'd be more than happy to work with our neighbours and have any comments come back from our neighbours at any time. Because if we can help to deal with satisfying them that we're not taking advantage of this situation, I would be very, very happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crook, is that a legacy hand, or you have something else to add to your submissions?
Not from me. I don't think I didn't press anything.
If you take your hand down, please. Anyway,
Okay.
not to worry. All right, well, the panel will retire now, and I think it's 12:25. I do hope that we will be able to make a decision by 1 o'clock. So we will reconvene at 1 o'clock, hopefully with our decision. And until then, I don't know how it will be managed in the technical sense. I think probably the panel and our legal advisor and our clerk, we will now remain in the room.